All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for TCU versus Kansas. Who would have guessed it? But this is an undefeated ranked matchup here in Week 6. Lance Leipold's done complete wonders with the Jayhawks. They sit at 5-0. 7-point line in favor of TCU. 67.5 is the over-under. 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Game day will be in town for this one. David Booth Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, Kansas. Series history, TCU leads 25-9 to 4 all time, and they've won 3 straight. 2 of those were blowouts. Last year, 3-point game. Of course, that was Leipold's first game in the series. How about that for Kansas? Looking at this TCU offense, they're fresh off a complete beatdown of Oklahoma, 56 points, 668 yards. I mean, they could have had 1,000 yards and 100 points if they wanted to. They were just flaming all over the place against an Oklahoma defense that's just falling off the cliff. Venables has a lot of work to do there. Sonny Dykes, though, 48.5 points per game for his offense. Max Duggan was not the starter in Week 1. Chandler Morris was. I never understood the decision, and now that you see how good Duggan's playing, you still don't understand it. 75% completion rate, just shy of 1,000 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, no picks, $149 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Something he's really good at doing. He, exploded for a 67-yarder against Oklahoma for, his first and second touchdown of the game, actually, on the ground. He had both of them came in that contest. So they were just flying all over the place. Look at this ground game. Keandre Miller, plenty of speed, but Mari DiMarcado, both these guys, 7.5 yards per carry this season, combined for 9 touchdowns. Duggan, of course, has almost 150, and then Amani Bailey, he gets a handful of touches as well. 251 yards per contest for this running game. They've just been flat out great against Oklahoma at 361 yards. They've had 180 plus in each contest so far. Ground game really complements what they do through the air. It's been kind of strange, though, because it's been really by committee, wide receiver, and they're very deep, but some of the numbers are just kind of interesting. Tay Barber, only 11 receptions. He's averaging almost 19 yards per catch. Darius Davis, he's got 14. Gunnar Henderson, 6 for 149 yards, averaging almost 25 per catch. That's great, but, Savion Williams getting involved. Quentin Johnston, though, this guy only has 12 receptions for 114 yards, and he's probably their best receiver, 6'4", 215, plenty of size. He can really high point it downfield. Averaged almost 20 yards per catch himself last year, 600-plus yards receiving. Johnston, they need to get him involved. Obviously, they're winning football games, and right now whatever they're doing is working, but that's a player that they are eventually going to have to get the ball to because he's just really that good. Just overall, Sonny Dykes, doing wonders with this offense, and you knew that was potential for them to do that, but they've been scorching hot. I didn't think they'd be this good. They're undefeated right now. I think I picked them to win 5 or 6 games all season, and they're already at that total. So this offense has been dynamite. Dykes continues to do great work, and again, you knew that was going to be a potential because of all this talent they had. Zach Evans, of course, left, but they still got a very deep backfield. So TCU, man, their offensive line's also been pretty staggering as well. They got some great size on the interior as well, so that's something to look out for. I think they match up pretty well against this Kansas D-line. Alan Ali, though, a transfer coming over. Steven Avila, John Lands. These guys are veterans. They're all seniors on the interior, and they're big. They're massive. So TCU, top to bottom, phenomenal offense. You flip the script to Kansas, this offense is what's got them here. You look at Jalen Daniels, a dual-threat playmaker of good production, 1,300 yards, 14 total touchdowns. They're averaging almost 42 yards per game. He's got plenty of speed as a runner. Devin Neal, Daniel Highshaw, 218.6 yards per game for this ground attack. Nice 1-2 punch. Neal, 333, 4 touchdowns. He runs with authority. Highshaw, he's a heck of a playmaker in the open field. 259 yards and 5 touchdowns. This group has just really complemented each other really great. There's some young talent on here that's really getting involved in Neal last year. He was one of the only bright spots on this offense. Had 700-plus yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. And now everyone else is starting to come and get involved. You look at wide receiver. They're not very deep at this position. Luke Grimm, 19 grabs, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 foot, 190 for him. And then Lawrence Arnold. Other than that, there's not much production from these receivers. And this downfield passing game, it's not anything that's really going to blow you away. They've had, some big plays. But it's kind of strange because none of these guys really wow you in terms of talent. Quentin Skinner, he's next up. He grabs 134 yards rather. But they're not very deep. They don't have a lot of size at wide receiver. It's a very interesting group. Their offensive line has also been phenomenal for Kansas. But it really starts with the running game. They like to attack you vertically. Neal, he's very aggressive, a very physical runner. Very impressive stuff from this offense. Leipold, they have them clicking in all facets of the game. They're protecting the football. They're getting downfield, and they're doing it against some good opponents. Houston, their defense last year is really good so far. Not so good this year. 400 plus against West Virginia, 438 against Houston, 500 plus against Duke. Offense has been very consistent until last week. They met Iowa State at home, and they struggled big time, 213 yards. They're obviously facing a much different defense here this week, but 101 through the air, 112 on the ground, 14 points. Looked, typical Kansas offense from years past, but I don't think that one game should blemish this unit one bit because they've been terrific in all facets, really. Offensive line's been good, running the ball well. I think the vertical passing game, as the year goes on, is really going to be what holds this offense back. I do think they've respectable matchup in this game, though, for Kansas. Looking at the TCU defense, been a serviceable unit, but still a work in progress, allowing 40% completion, 40% opponent third down conversion rate. Johnny Hodges at linebacker, transfer from Navy. Mark Perry coming over from Colorado. Those guys have been terrific for this defense. I think they held up, I thought they held up pretty well against SMU. Tanner Mordecai, Rashee Rice, a very veteran-style offense. Sonny Dykes, former team, he made his return trip to SMU, and they only gave up 476 yards. Only. 372 through the air. They're on the field 86 plays, though, and I think, the potential is certainly there for them to give up a lot more. And then Oklahoma, they bounced back pretty well, 355 yards. Of course, after Dylan Gabriel got hurt, that was pretty much all she wrote for that contest. But they got a big lead early in that game when he was playing because they had them in a lot of third and mediums, third and longs. It was just not where they wanted to be. Oklahoma could not run the ball the way they wanted to. Almost had 200 yards on the game, but for the most part, in that, early part of the game before Gabriel got hurt, the defense was certainly earning it. After that, that game was done. But this defense has been very solid this year for TCU. I love D. Winters, heck of a playmaker. He's been getting into the backfield a lot. Very respectable linebacking core now of Hodges, who leads the team in tackles. And then tackles for loss, Winters has actually got 5. Hodges right behind him with 3. And the defense is still a work in progress, though. 3.5 sacks for Winters as well. He's just been terrific. 7 of the team's 9 sacks came in the last 2 games against Oklahoma. Of course, I'm not sure. I don't think many of those came when Gabriel was on the field. It was just really just a lot of overthrows from Oklahoma. The defense obviously still on the field helping apply that, but Gabriel was missing a lot of throws. And after that, I think they started the tee off, on the backup quarterback. TCU's defense, though, it's still a work in progress. It's going to be what holds them back likely. Josh Newton's been nice with 2 picks. Travaius Hodges Tomlinson, he's still there at corner. Millard Bradford at safety. He's been stepping up with some pass breakups. And I believe Noah Daniels is still on the roster as well. But this is a TCU defense that has some potential. They have some nice playmakers all around. No, I no longer see Noah Daniels. I'm not sure what happened to him. But defensive line-wise, they have some impressive size. Dominic Williams, a freshman nose tackle. He's been getting involved. Dylan Horton was a heck of a playmaker for them last year. They're kind of deep now. Tymon Mitchell. It's really an interesting rotation. You look at the depth chart and you see third-string guys. They're, putting up starting production. So the defensive line hasn't exactly been productive as a whole. It's a nice group of, veterans and young guys and, a lot of transfers as well. I think that unit is certainly going to continue to grow for them. Top to bottom, very iffy TCU defense. I think that Oklahoma, if we got a full 60 minutes of Dylan Gabriel, we really saw a better picture of TCU's defense. But I thought they performed pretty well last week. And then, against SMU, they held up, as best as they could. So TCU's defense, top to bottom, solid unit, 13th in college football in opponent completion rate. That's one thing they did against SMU. It was about a 50% completion rate, I believe, for Tanner Mordecai. So that's really good, not giving up many completions. The downfield passing game, it has hurt them, though. So it's going to be interesting to see how this TCU defense plays here against Kansas, who's not really going to challenge you much at wide receiver. The Jayhawk defense, on the other hand, it's been very impressive to see the resurgence on both sides of the ball for Kansas, especially here on defense. Only giving up 24 points per game compared to the 42 they gave up last year. It's been tough sledding for the most part. The offenses really did a lot of the heavy lifting, but they've been, gashed up, I'd say, a good bit on defense. 500 plus to West Virginia, almost 500 to Houston. Duke had 463. So they held Iowa State in check, only 26 rushing yards. And then, that was just a defensive game all around. Hunter Deckers made a lot of bad plays. Overall, he almost had 300 passing yards. But Kansas, there's some parts of this defense that have not been impressive altogether. The pass defense has been a liability, I'd say. 109th in opponent completion rate, 111th in pass yards per game allowed. Kenny Logan, though, is a big-time leader in the back end at safety. I love him. 111 tackles, I think it was last year. He's on, track to do similar this year. Lonnie Phelps, though, he's been elite off the edge. 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. The Jayhawks lead the conference in sacks with 15. Rich Miller, he was one of those Buffalo transfers that followed Leopold over. He continues to build off a strong effort. He had, I think, 80 tackles last year. He's already leading the team now. So this is a big opportunity for the Kansas defense. They're really going to get tested in every way possible. Home crowd will hopefully help them out a good bit. Caleb Sampson, Jermaine Robinson, these guys aren't exactly loaded with size. Sam Burton, another one, 295 pounds. They're not exactly loaded with size. Talent is still something you got to consider when you look at this football team, even though they're really gelling together this year, playing very well, good football. This defense still has a lot of improvement, and they haven't not exactly been great this year. I have liked their ability to get off the field, though. And then I think Iowa State game last year, last week, that's a veteran offensive line that they were playing against. 37% third down conversion rate. You want to see that number continue to dip. But overall, big time resurgence for this Kansas defense. They're a lot better than they've been in a lot, in many years. So got to give them credit there. Phelps, though, he's going to have to be great. These guys are going to have to, just see how they hold up against the tempo, because it's going to be high flying. They're going to be tested vertically, not just against the speed ground attack of TCU, but through the air as well. So this is going to be a big opportunity. If they hold up and they play well here, man, Kansas could really impress some people coming into this game. Looking at team comparisons, I hate to do it, but top to bottom, TCU has the edge in every single category. I think secondary, you could potentially call even because they both had their struggles in the back end. But, in terms of talent, TCU has the edge there in every single position. Jalen Daniels could give Max Duggan a run for his money at quarterback, but he's, a senior. Well, Daniels is, just now having an impressive season. 4 games does not make up for an entire career compared to Duggan. So, running back, I like the duo they have in Shaw and Neal. TCU, they're much deeper, and they get, a lot more. They have a lot more speed overall than Kansas does. Wide receiver, no contest there. The offensive line, you could probably call that one even as well, because Kansas, they've been really good up front, but I think the size on the interior definitely, it gives them the edge there. The defensive front, Lonnie Phelps, of course, he's been phenomenal. TCU, though, another group that's kind of iffy, but I do think they have a lot of depth. They just have not really proven their potential just yet. That's a group that's really going to grow for TCU as the year goes on. And then linebacker, I love D. Winters. And then Johnny Hodges has been great for them. So, top to bottom, the roster for TCU is much more talented than Kansas. Looking at the final thoughts and the prediction for this game, TCU, contain Daniels, make the wide receivers make plays downfield, because I don't believe they can. So you're going to have to challenge them and see what they can do. Because, TCU, their secondary hasn't exactly been great against the pass this year, and I could be completely wrong. And Grimm and Arnold, those guys could start to really tear you up. And then I think for Kansas, find that pass rush on the early downs, control the clock as well. Keep that offense on the sideline. I think is really going to do a lot of damage in this game. Just, finding that pass rush, though, putting them in third and long situations is exactly where you want to be. They're more than capable of converting on those, third and 15s and whatnot. But, it's still a low percentage. So that's really going to help out your defense. Prediction for me, TCU 45-34 for Kansas. I think we're going to see a good amount of points in this one. But I do think that the TCU offense, they're really outmatched the Kansas defense here. Just too much talent, too much skill, too much continuity with Duggan under center with these guys. They've been together a long time. I know Kansas fans are not going to like me picking them to win this game. But I really want to. I'm rooting for the Jayhawks. I'd love to see them continue this unbeaten run, but I just don't think that, on paper, that this is going to do much for Kansas. Their defense is still looking to progress. And, if they can just get a big-time effort from their defensive front, I could be completely wrong, but they have just too much speed that's really going to eat them up on the edge, too much balance. TCU, they're going to score a lot of points in this one. But I do think that Kansas, with a home sellout, more than likely it's probably going to be sold out with game day in town. I'd imagine this is going to be a very rowdy crowd that could certainly alter Sonny Dykes' football team. But I think Kansas, great football team so far. Nice start to the year. TCU, though, much better, I think, in terms of matchup-wise. So I'm going to pick them to win this game. Rooting for the Jayhawks. But I think Sonny Dykes has a pretty good matchup here, and they should be able to put up points of ease. So that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.